person. You can introduce yourself. You don't have to go through the whole basic introductions, but just introduce yourself and say. Who's going to explain what is Appa.
Alright, hey everybody. Like Voli said, my name is Alec. I'm also a senior. So briefly, we just wanted to touch upon what is Appa again. This is probably not new information for a lot of you, but for your first timers, this is kind of at the core where we are. So we are a year-long service immersion program, and we were founded in 1978 by a sophomore at the time. His name was Greg Casson. And he decided, instead of going on a normal spring break trip, that he was going to go to Kentucky with 12 of his friends. So in that light, 30 some odd years later, here we are still doing this, but we've really expanded. So instead of just going to Appalachia, we go to Los Angeles, we go to Detroit, we go to New Orleans, and we kind of modified our mission statement to say, we kind of go where we're needed. And so if we feel that there's a community that's overlooked and marginalized, we want to go there, and so we can share their stories and we can learn from them. So we have bi-weekly meetings here. So in the past, I know we used to have meetings every week, but now we're doing every other week for an hour and a half, so that's a little bit of a change. But besides that, it's exactly the same. We're a year-long conversation. We really hope you guys learn to love each other, not only on campus here, but also with communities that you'll be fortunate enough to share your lives with over spring break. Yeah. So this is a little video.
So now we have our program director, Kelly Hughes. She's coming on up to introduce herself and talk a little bit more about Appa.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kelly Hughes, and I am the new campus minister for the Appa program. So I am very much a first-year campus minister. This is my first meeting, general meeting for Appa in Eagle's Nest, and to see what it looks like, having prepared through the summer and getting excited with all of these trip leaders. It's a great gift to be here with all of you tonight, and we're thrilled to have you or have your interest in the program. Just to briefly mention from the perspective of campus ministry, this is a great opportunity, a year-long opportunity, to go beyond our everyday, beyond the I live for myself, for what I can do, for what I can achieve, and to really build relationships. And what I see here is a three-pronged approach to build relationships with one another, from icebreaker questions to what we started with, to deeper conversations and authentic conversations and vulnerability that you'll see on the trips as well. A chance to build relationships with people you may never have met in Exmoor, Virginia, in Los Angeles, in New Orleans, to be able to not only share your story, but hear the stories of those whom we live in solidarity with and seek to work for justice. And also the relationship, a relationship of faith and spirituality. What does that mean for your faith wherever you are in your faith journey? And how can that be a part of this experience of Appa? So of all three of those multifaceted parts of our program, I hope that you're able to enter into these relationships, grow deeper in them, and greatly add to your BC experience by having this as a part of it. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm gonna hand it back over to the head coordinators.
Thanks, Kelly. Up next, we have our grad assistant, Sarah, who's going to say a few words.
Thanks, Alec. My name's Sarah. This is my second year as graduate assistant with Appa, and my second year here at BC in the School of Theology and Ministry. So I'm really excited to be back for our first meeting and see all of you, and really excited to get another year kicked off with Appa. The reason that I'm so excited to be here and start the year off again is because when I was an undergrad over at Seattle University, I had a really powerful experience of service immersion in West Virginia. So when I heard that there was an Appa program here at BC, I was so excited to get involved and start working with them. And then I was told from our tiny, tiny program at Seattle U that sent 14 kids to West Virginia once a year. I was told when I got here to BC that there were 36 trips and over 400 students that went every year. And I said, oh my gosh, BC is an entirely different scale. This is incredible. But the experience that I had, which involved encountering people with a really powerful culture, really interesting family stories, a lot of challenges, a lot of hopes. That holds true for what I've heard from all of our students who have gone on trips in the past years. Wherever in the country that you go to serve, there are powerful stories that come back. There are powerful moments of encounter with others, both your fellow students and the people that you will meet. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to our year together.
Next, I'm going to actually invite the whole council to come up just so we can put some faces to names. Like we already mentioned, myself, Stoey, and Molly are the head coordinators, and so we kind of just serve as the contact point for all things Appa. So if you have any questions about anything, you can obviously direct them to anybody or any of the trip leaders, but we're kind of here to kind of just oversee things. Also, when you email Appalach, you're emailing us, just so you know what's going on. Thanks. Next, we have our formation committee, which is Jack, Amanda, and Bailey. Over there. Amanda actually makes the videos for us. She doesn't want to do that. And the three of them are kind of in charge of putting this whole experience together for you guys. So they do the meetings, they contact speakers, and they're also the ones who create and organize the reflections that you'll be doing not only here on campus, but then on the trip when you're down. And then we have fundraising, which is Margaret, Christian, and Molly. And they are the ones who make sure we have enough money to make this whole program run. So they're obviously incredibly important. They reach out, they're the ones who do Tosca nights, and they arrange all these really fun things for us to do in the area to not only support Appa, but kind of build our community in that way too. Next, we have Transpo, which I'll have Molly.
So Transpo is Erin, Andrew, and Diana. And on Transpo, we figure out how we're getting, hopefully, 504 participants and trip leaders on all of these sites. So we coordinate with the communities that we work with throughout the year, and then we figure out all of the logistical sides of getting 504 people from Chestnut Hill to across the United States. And now we're going to ask all of our trip leaders to please stand up. So most of our trip leaders tonight are in Appa gear, some of them are not, but they're awesome people. They're great resources for anything Appa, so if you have a question after the meeting or at any point you see them on campus, great resources for any questions related to Appa, and honestly just really awesome people that you will all have the pleasure of getting to know. And these are the people who are going to be the council as well, but these are the people who are going to be leading your groups down to wherever you're going, and these are the people who will hopefully become very special to you over the next year. So just to go over some of the program requirements, as you know, we do not have an application. So anyone who wants to be a part of our program, as long as you meet our requirements, you're a part of our program. So what are those requirements? First and foremost, we ask that you attend every meeting. We've cut it down to every other week, so it's even less of a time commitment this year. And so we really ask that, barring anything super serious, you're here, you're present, and you're engaged. So it's not just that you're attending, but that you're participating in your small group, that you're actively engaging with our community. We do have a program fee, which is our terms and conditions. It's $75. And that is essentially what puts you on a trip. That puts you into our system and says, this person's paid their dues, they're going on Appa. So we ask that everyone will do that before our next meeting. So we ask that you do that before our October 13th, which is that Friday before our second meeting. And you can find the terms and conditions on bc.edu/Appa, and then under Join Appa. So just to go over some of the fundraising requirements then, we have a letter campaign in which you have to send 10 letters. So you don't have to raise a certain amount of money from those letters, you just have to send them to 10 different families or people, places you've worked. We'll get into that more in a later meeting. And then you also have to sell $200 worth, or 20 raffle tickets. So those are the program requirements in terms of fundraising and fees. As we said at our info sessions, and if you came by our table at the Student Involvement Fair, we pride ourselves on being able to accept everyone. We want anyone who wants to go on an APA trip to be able to participate. So if you're thinking right now that any of these fees or the fundraising requirements, if that might be financially an issue for you, no problem, just email us, talk with one of us, and we'll direct you, have you have a conversation with our campus minister, Kelly, or GA, Sarah, and we'll really work with you to figure something out, because what we want to say is that we want everyone who wants to go on a trip to be able to go on a trip. So, because fundraising has some exciting things coming up, we do concessions at every football game, and then some home basketball games and home ice hockey games. So what that means is that you can take $50 off of your raffle requirement. So as before, you have to sell up to $200 worth of raffle tickets. So $50 worth of that $200, if you sign up to do concessions, is waived from your fundraising requirement. So we'll be sending out an email asking for interest, and it's first come, first serve. So we have about 5 spots at every football game, and then about the same at every hockey basketball game as that comes up. But that's a really great way if you're thinking, I really don't know how I'm gonna sell raffle tickets, or I really don't want to sell raffle tickets. Then if that's something that you're nervous about, then concessions are a great way to get that done. And Molly Wolf, who's on fundraising, is raising her hand right here. She's the one who's the point person for concessions. So if you know right away you're really excited about this and you want to do concessions at the next football game, then just come see Molly after the meeting and she'll take your name down. And what that means doing concessions, you're just working for the food service in athletics. So it's just for the game, it's just one game, so it's not a huge commitment. And then, more excitingly, we have Tosca Night this Thursday. So Tosca, for those of you who don't know, is the tapas place right on Com Ave, just 5 minutes away. And they're going to be donating 20% of all of the profits from that night for people who say that it's for APA. That money is going to APA. So it's such a fun place, great food, great drinks, and you will be able to reserve a table online. And then also, if you're gonna go, write in your check that is for charity, and that's how they know that it's for us. We partner with them every year. They love working with APA, so we really hope that we have a great turnout this Thursday from 5 to 10 p.m. On the 28th, Thursday the 28th. And as I said before, the fundraising requirements are to come, so we'll be talking more about those at the subsequent meetings, but the terms and conditions are due October 13th. And then just keep in the back of your mind the letter campaign and the raffles.
So now, with all the logistics stuff aside, we want to have a nice little student panel come up to share their experience with APA and why they keep coming back. So if you guys want to come up here now, give them a round of applause. So like the slide says, it's a mix of trip leaders and past participants. So once they get situated, we'll get going. The first thing that we're going to ask them to do is just go down the line and say in what they think APA is to them.
Community.
Care.
Relationships.
Uncomfortable.
My word is sandwich, and that will become clear why later.
This is a terrible system. We should have thought about how long the wire was before we did this. But now we kind of just want to have these panelists kind of expand on their word and explain why they keep coming back to APA and why APA means so much to them. So they're going to share stories, or they're going to share some fun times, and hopefully it's of use to you guys.
Hello everyone, I'm Pablo. I am a sophomore. I am from Nicaragua, and I went to Brentwood, South Carolina last year. So since I live outside of the US for spring break, I didn't have anything to do, so when I found out that there was this service trip, I was just like, whatever, I don't have anything better to do. So I definitely came in with the wrong mentality. And then the first semester I bounced into some meetings, not all of them. I found them very awkward, and that didn't go that well. But then, Appa is split in community and habitat trips. Community are more relationship-based, they're more spontaneous, they're more like helping out or visiting children or visiting elderly. So it's more like relationship-based, and then habitat is more hands-on, get physical. So, you know, looking at my muscles, you know which one I wanted to watch. So, I wanted community, but I got habitat, and I was pissed. I haven't been to the Plex since orientation dodgeball, so I don't know how they wanted me to do hammer and nail and build a house. So I wasn't happy about that. Then raise your hand if you live or have lived on Newton. Okay, so to everyone who raised their hand, imagine taking the Newton bus for 22 hours straight. With awkward conversations and no napping time. So, unless you're good at taking naps on bus, I don't know. So all of that added together, I was just not having it. However, it all changed, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here. But, so we come in, the first day passes, I take like 20 minutes putting a nail successfully. Pretty good. But I'm not here to tell you the story of how I liked Habitat. I'm here to tell you the story how Habitat became a community. And it became a community two ways. It became a community with the group I went with, and the group of volunteers who I work with who live in Greenwood, South Carolina. So for the first part, it's the group of students who I went with. We didn't know each other beforehand. At the bus, we tried to do conversations, but it wasn't working out. The first meeting was kind of weird, but then after this, at night, we got split on the sleeping. We got split, girls in one room and boys in one room. And then the guys just started talking intimate stuff, and then the guys started getting close. So small stuff like that, then we started like interacting more with the girls, with meaningful conversations. And then by the second night, we started becoming more vulnerable, more open-minded. And so we built our own community filled with inside jokes and great times, and just overall a great experience. So that's for the first part, and then the second part, which I think is the most important, is meeting the people in Greenwood, South Carolina. So we got the honor of meeting the owner of the upcoming house we're building. We got to know her story, her family, the struggles she had to go through to get this house. And we also got the opportunity to work with a couple of volunteer builders who were just alpha dudes who I would never see myself talking to ever. They were all very like, they give this tough persona of like, if you did something wrong, they rolled their eyes and all of that. And so that definitely gave me a bad first impression. But then for every lunch, we'd go to their churches and we'd eat lunch with their community. And so our leaders encouraged us to sit, instead of with our own group, to sit, scatter around and sit with the volunteer builders. And that was honestly the best decision I could have ever done, because they're so interested in you, and there's also vice versa, and their experiences and stories on why they volunteer, or why they're doing this, or where they're coming from. It's so great, and they have genuine interest to what you have to say, or when you have to listen to them. So all of that added together, it definitely built a community. So when you get Habitat community, it doesn't matter where you go, you're always gonna get community. On the way back, the bus definitely still sucked, but I was glad to say that I got back from a community and with a community into a new community.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline, and so the word that I chose to describe Appa is care, and I kind of see that unfold in three ways. The first being self-care, the second being care for those close to me, and the third being care of the stranger. It's someone I don't know as well, or at all. So to kind of go back, I think the first piece is self-care, which I've learned through Appa is one of the most important things. And I remember in my freshman year being really uncertain of my place at BC, not really sure of my friends. I just didn't really know kind of what my purpose was going to be here at BC, but so I was really struggling. But I came every Sunday night to Eagle's Nest, and there was that little glimmer of hope that I was going to find, you know, what I was going to do here and what I was going to dedicate the majority of my time to here at BC. And then, obviously, I went on a spring break trip my freshman year. I went to Wheeling, West Virginia, and it was a great trip. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned was the importance of taking care of yourself and the importance of recognizing when you're struggling and when you're suffering, and finding the people in your life, the people in your community who can support you through that. And for me, that was my Appa group freshman year. And we were able to support each other, not only in that week as we kind of struggled through being tired or being hungry or going on a long bus ride, and then also being able to support ourselves and learning the importance of that. So that's the first thing for me. And then I always say that my family and I have this little saying, which is cliche, but we always say that you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's kind of my definition of self-care. And particularly in relation to Appa, is that I'm no good on an Appa trip if I'm not good with myself. And if I'm not taking care of myself, then I'm not going to be able to take care of those around me, both in my group and in the community. So that's the first thing for me. The second would be care for others that are close to me. And so I saw that obviously in each and every one of my Appa trips. This is my senior year, so I'll be going on my 4th trip this year. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of small groups each year that are the definition of care and loving towards one another. It's very interesting when you get on the bus and you really don't know anyone, and you kind of think, how am I supposed to spend a week with these people who I've never met? But you'll be surprised, I'm sure, by how quickly you become close with people. And that's been my experience, and it's taught me how to really love the people that I'm close to. I think it can be hard sometimes. We can take the people in our lives for granted that we just think will be around all the time, but we still have to put in the care for those people in our lives as well. And so for me, that's been the lesson that I've learned with every Appa group. We are there for each other in the week, but then we're also there for each other in the semesters and years after Appa. And then the third, I would say, is care for the stranger. And I think this is the most challenging part of Appa for myself, but I think it's summed up in the story of the Good Samaritan, which, if you're not familiar with the story, it's a story from the Gospel of Luke in which a man asks Jesus, who is my neighbor? And Jesus tells a story of a man who was walking down the street, and he's brutally attacked by robbers, and he's basically left for dead on the ground. And throughout the day, a priest walks by and sees the man and walks to the other side of the road and keeps going. A Levite walks by, sees the man, does the same as the priest, walks away. And a Samaritan is the third person to walk by. And he stops and he helps the man, and he takes care of the man. And for me, that is the definition of how Appa goes into every community. It's not easy, it's not comfortable all the time, but it's really, really important that I go into these communities to learn to serve a person that I've never met in my entire life, that I may think I have nothing in common with, and I've been surprised to find that I actually do have a lot in common with the different communities that I meet. So I think thinking about care for me in those 3 ways is the best way that I'm able to prepare myself for Appa, and the best way that I'm able to really engage with the community, be a witness to the amazing things that Appa is, and to love, learn, and serve.
Hello, my name is Alexis, and I am currently a sophomore. I'm from Eastern Massachusetts, about 40 minutes away. So I was unsure about Appa. I had heard about it from multiple people. My RA had told me about it, or she hadn't gone on it, but she'd known people who had gone on it and loved it. And I knew a bunch of upperclassmen who had talked about it. I didn't know their experiences, but I thought maybe this is a good chance for me to meet new people and go ahead and do it. So I came to the first meeting not knowing what to expect, and sitting on the floor for an hour really hurt my back. But I sat with two girls I knew from Newton campus, but then started to grow into, like, we did the opening and icebreaker and met different faces and got to talk to different people, and then those are more people that you can talk to and say hi to when you cross campus, and just another familiar face to see. So my word to describe Appa is relationships. I think relationships with myself, with the people we serve, with the people in our small groups, and then with the Appa community as a whole. So first, relationships with myself. Again, I didn't know why I wanted to go on Appa, but something was urging me and telling me, yes, what else are you going to do on spring break? Go somewhere? Yeah, that would be fun, but why not spend it with 12 new people that you can get to know and spend time with yourself. And through that, my favorite part was at the end of each day, you come together in your small groups on the trip, and we have a little reflection. Sometimes it was an hour, sometimes I think like 5 hours one night. I stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning. But it was the best times to figure out why I wanted to go on Appa, and finally realize why I did it and loved it, and be able to connect with all the other people in our small groups. Relationships with the people we serve. So I went on a habitat trip to Huntington, West Virginia, and we went to 2 different places. We were in Huntington, but we would cross over the Ohio River, and we would go to the street with 3 different houses, and we would take apart the lamps, the doors we literally took out of the house, and they used those to bring to the habitat resale, where anything that they sold, the money would go back directly into building the new houses for the people who needed them. So unfortunately, we weren't able to meet the people whose house we were going to build, but we spent 5 days with the Old Farts Club, they call themselves, and they were these 10 or 15 old men who volunteered every day of the week, or 6 days a week, to Habitat for Humanity, and decided to do that and gave up their time. And the head guys as well weren't necessarily old farts, but they decided to retire from their jobs and become volunteers full-time, or work for Habitat for Humanity, because that's what they wanted to do, and that's what brought them joy, and what they wanted. That's what they saw themselves doing every day in, day out, and making a difference. And also relationships with those in our small groups. Again, I said that we had reflections every night, and that's how we got to know each other. And honestly, I can say that we walked out with 11 new best friends one person I'm living with next year, someone I can go grab mass with out the week, or see 5 times a day as I'm leaving my hall. Just another face to see or grab lunch with when you don't have someone to get lunch with, or just someone to talk to. And it's just a great experience. And during one of the reflections, it was a 4 corners experience, and you really learn what everyone struggles with. You learn what brings people joy, and you were able to connect with each other in a way that I didn't even know was possible. And so also then relationships with the Appa community as a whole. So yes, we are 400 plus students, and you're not going to get to know everyone, and you go on 25 different trips. So yes, you're having different experiences, but you get to bring what happens in those experiences and bring them back and share them with others. I think that was my favorite part. 2 weeks after Appa, meeting with other people on different trips and talking to them, and seeing what they did and what their experiences were, and just being able to communicate with them in a way that I wouldn't have been able to before. And I think that is why I do Appa.
Hi everybody, I'm Lucas. Thanks. And for my word, I said uncomfortable, which I know got a little bit of a chuckle, but I'm serious. So I spent my entire freshman year convincing myself why I didn't want to do Appa. There were any number of reasons. I wanted to stay. I wanted to go back to New Jersey, like see my friends. Like I was like, oh, it's such a great weekend. I can go to the beach. Like I didn't know that was in March, so Jersey beaches aren't good in March. So I was really stuck. So I was like, you know what? Like maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. And then I started going to some meetings and I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. So I backed out. I completely didn't do it. I went home for my spring break and I did absolutely nothing. I like worked at the rec center where I worked like, while I was in high school. So I didn't really do much. Then over the summer, there was an opportunity to go on a summer Appa trip, which was completely a new idea to me. I'd never done a service trip. I did some retreats in high school, but nothing that was service-based. But toward the end of the summer, I had a rough time back home in New Jersey and I was like, you know what? I'm going for it, like, I'm gonna go. So I shipped up to Boston, got up here, and there were 3 different trips, and I got there, and the campus minister at the time looked at the 3 trips and was like, you know what, you're going on this one. So I went on that one, and as fate would have it, it was the single most like formative experience for my freshman year. I wasn't really involved in much. I had a lot of opportunities that I turned down or just didn't really get or didn't get accepted to. So I needed something. So this is a great way to start off my sophomore year. So I did a community trip to Weirwood, Virginia. Weirwood's on the coast of Virginia, and we did we ran a summer camp for the local students. It's actually where I met Dom, who's in the crowd over there. Dom, give us a shout out. There he is. And we were just trying to keep everybody entertained for the entire time. But one of the most fun times that we had, we used to make lunch for everybody. So we would sit in the kitchen and we would like crank out like 75 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I know that does not sound like anybody's definition of service, but it was through that, like, we were playing with the kids, like, they were so excited to have something to, like, help be a part of, and, like, within the group, everybody who was on lunch duty was, like, a huge thing, like, it was so cool to be able to, like, be a part of that. So by the end of the week, we were leaving, and we split everybody up into small groups, which just got more chaotic because nobody liked the small groups that they were put in. So I ended up hanging out with, I had 3 siblings, Jace, Justin, and Gia. And Gia and Justin and Jace were the 3 cutest little kids. And they loved to run around and they were just a little sassy and like would just like make fun of me, and I loved it. But by the end of the week, we got really close with their grandmother, who was one of the, she really helped out with us in the community to put the camp together. And she gave me her phone number by the end, and like to this day, I can still expect like a phone call from Weirwood, Virginia, and they'll say nothing but, Lucas, how are you? I'm good. Jace, Justin, how are you guys? And like, we're good too, and then they'll hang up. So they're doing well. Also, their grandmother is an avid Candy Crush player, and I will just get non-stop notifications on Facebook that she invites me to play Candy Crush with her. One day I'm going to take her up on it, but not yet. But all of those experiences just point to the fact that I was so uncomfortable going into it, to the point where I didn't do it, and to the point where I really regret that. But now you guys have the unique opportunity. You're here at the first meeting. And, you know, I really hope you don't do what I did, because I really wish that I had done it when I could. Thank you, guys.
Hi guys, my name's John. I went to Ivanhoe, Virginia, which is a rural site, and other people have been there. I think it's one of the oldest Appa sites, so it's kind of like that classic Appalachia experience. And it's a community trip, so you don't really know what to expect going into it. And I'd like to start off with my little sandwich story. So Lucas is gonna hold the microphone for me. So this woman that we met, Maxine, who, similar to you, like I'm still in contact with. Every night we'd gather as a community. It was cool. We were with some Holy Cross students too, and then other people in the community. We'd get together at the community center, and people from the community would eat dinner with us, and we'd all get to talk. And every night Maxine gave a little talk, and so Tuesday night she gave a talk about her sandwich theory of life. And it's something that I think about often, and it goes like this. She's like, all you guys up north like to call them sandwiches, but in Ivanhoe, we call them sandwiches. And you know, any good sandwich, it's got 2 pieces of bread. And so these pieces of bread just want to be together. But what do you need for 2 pieces of bread to come together? You need some peanut butter, which is all the difficult stuff in life, all the suffering, and all the hard times in life. And then you need some jelly, like the sweetness of life, she said. You need some jelly. And so when 2 pieces of bread come together, sharing in their struggles and in their sweetness, they can like recognize that they belong together. And you can kind of look at this sandwich and you really don't see a power structure. You don't know who's on top, who's on bottom. And I think that, I can take this back now. And I think that largely describes like how Appa should work, is that we're not going to like help a community, we're going to experience it and to share some of our own struggles and also some of our sweetness, and then also to like encounter people's struggles and then also like the great joy that they can give to us. And like looking at Molly, like I think she was a little concerned for me the entire week. Like I got attacked by a dog one day and my flannel is like in 3 parts now. And the week was crazy, but it was like full of experience. And to speak to like, I think Alexis maybe mentioned, what was it? That's okay, I can't remember exactly. But it reminded me of this woman, Deb, that we worked with, where like we were given saws, which was also not okay. But we were like hacking away at these thorn bushes, and Deb like asked us like every 10 minutes, like, do you guys want to take a break? And we'd be like, we want to like get something done. But she like, and then she like brought out orange soda, and we're like, fine, we'll take a break. And she really just wanted to share her story, and she talked about like how she created a program for like teens dealing with pregnancy and stuff like that. And she really wanted to talk about like the difficulties in her community, but also like she really wanted to share her faith experience and like how she trusted so much in God, and therefore she wasn't really concerned too much ever because she had that trust, and that was really cool to hear about. And like the next day on Tuesday, all day I spent just like picking up sticks. Like we rode around in a John Deere and picked up sticks, my friend Kyle and I. And like, it's so much not about like the work you're doing as much as it is that you're doing it with people who you otherwise wouldn't get to know. And like I built really great relationships with people in my group, and then also with Maxine, who I talked to this week. And like, you guys could send positive thoughts for her. She's struggling with health problems. But like, the week really is, I have it written here, it's like practice for real life. Like, you wake up every morning with a purpose and with a group of people to support you in that purpose. And you go through your day intentionally, like trying to be one piece of bread that's just recognizing that you belong to another piece of bread. And the only way to like sort of fully come together and recognize that you belong together is by just being your true open self and just spending your day fully with like people who you love, like actively. So go on Appa, it's a great time. And I think I talked too long, so. All right.
All right, well, thanks again, students, panelists. We want to give a quick opportunity for you guys to just ask questions. So if you have something in the back of your head that you want to know about, or if you want to just pick their brains about their experiences, just shoot up a hand and I'll snag your question. Yeah?
What advice do you have for people going on Appa for the first time, and like specific advice to kind of get the most out of the experience?
Yeah, so the question was, what advice do you have for people going on Appa for the first time to get the most out of their experience?
I'd say the biggest piece of advice is to go with an open mind and be vulnerable, not being scared to be vulnerable. People are there to support you, and if you share, that's going to motivate other people who are more shy to share too. So it's all like a give and take relationship on where you will know each other as a community and know the people the community you're going to more to. Open-mindedness and vulnerability.
Anybody else has something to add to that? Really? Any other questions? Yeah, way in the back.
What's it like to come back to BC after an Appa?
The question was, what's it like to come back to BC after an Appa trip? John?
Also, I disagree with Pablo. I think the bus rides are the best part of the trip. But I think after the bus ride, I kind of came off my Appa high, and I think I probably should have made more space for alone time. You want to share your experience with everybody, but then it gets to the point where you're so overwhelmed, and I think you're gonna be super tired when you come back. So getting good rest, and then also making space for yourself, I think is something that I want to do more this year and in the years going forward. There are also all these recap Appa things that happen when we get back, and they're super great, but also you need to make time for yourself as well.
I think John hit the nail on the head. But I think one thing to add to that is to not forget about what you experienced. You're going to be coming back, and everyone's going to want to know what you did on spring break, but you're going to be competing with people who went to Mexico or Cabo or Dominican Republic. The story very easily can get muddled. So I think you really need to keep in mind that you want to keep what you need for yourself, and be, just like Caroline said about self-care, maintain what you need, but also being able to bring that back, being able to tell your friends about it, tell their friends about the people that you met, the experience that you had, being able to hammer a nail or swing a saw at bushes. I don't really know what that was doing. But whatever you did, bring that back. The BC community will be better for it, and you'll be able to further your relationships on campus too, as well as with your group too.
Thanks, guys. Any other questions? Yeah, Andy.
What's different about Appa as a service group on campus? I know there's a lot of different things that people can choose from. What makes Appa unique?
Yeah, so the question was, what differentiates Appa from other service programs on campus, in your opinion? That's a hard question.
Well, one is that there's no application, so everyone can join. Honestly, I don't think one is better than the other. They all fall under the branch of campus ministry, and I think the beauty of looking at Appa is that, yeah, we're 400, 500 people, but there's also groups of students throughout campus that are also doing service as well and have a similar mindset. A great addition to the program this year is that the trip leaders do shared formation with both for Boston and Arupe leaders as well. So I think bridging the gap, if there's a gap, between the service communities and recognizing what common purpose that we have and really living out solidarity is the biggest thing. So we're different in logistics, we're different in where we go, we're not international, but yet again, we're serving a common goal throughout.
I don't know, I think it's cool that it's a domestic service trip, and sometimes when you think about these service trips, Arupe, you think you have to go somewhere really far away to do some good in the world. But Appa's cool in that the America that people in Ivanhoe are experiencing is very different than the America that I grew up with. And it's just cool to, and then come back and hear everyone's stories about different parts of America is super cool.
Okay. We have time for one more question. Let's see. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Do you have to be particularly religious to go on Appa?
The question is, do you have to be particularly religious to go on Appa?
By no means, no. You absolutely don't. The reflections and the work that you'll be doing is much more focused on your own personal journey, whether that's spiritual, whether that's in terms of relationships, whether that's in terms of who you want to be. But there's definitely no requirement of being religious. There's also no requirement of being any particular religion. The conversations will sort of flow organically in any direction, whether that is in terms of spirituality or it's in terms of any other facet of your whole person. So like I said, it's not a requirement, and it's also not pushed on any of the trips. None of the reflections are sort of any particularly religious based. But there's an opportunity to discuss that if you want to, but there's no push or even a gentle shove in that direction either.
All right, let's give it up for our panelists. Okay, so that is all we have for you today. We really, really want to express again how thankful we are that you were all able to come and spend your day with us. Our next meeting is October 15th. In the same place here, we'll have some speakers come, and then you'll have the opportunity to break out a small group, so we're really excited about that. If you have any questions that you forgot that you want to ask us, you can email us at appalach@bc.edu, and then we're going to stick around for a few minutes now, too, if you want to come and pick our brains. Lastly, we hold Appa Hours in Kearney 371, which is our student office, and this is an opportunity for you to just come in, chit-chat with some of us trip leaders, and learn more about things Appa. And follow us on all forms of social media. We do cool things sometimes. Thanks, everybody.